My name is John Passfield, and I'm going to read from my Babe Ruth novel in a moment. First of all, though, I'll call this Babe Ruth Video 3, The Babe and Shoeless Joe. So more about that topic in a moment, but the novel itself first. The novel is called Out of the Park, The Cogitations of Babe Ruth, a novel by John Passfield. The painting, watercolor, as I recall, was painted a few years ago by Prashant Miranda, so I want to give him credit for painting the picture on the cover. I'm going to read from the summary on the back cover, just give you a sense of the whole novel and how it's set up. On October 1st, 1932, an aging Babe Ruth stands at the plate in Wrigley Field, Chicago, and grins at the shouts of a raging, hostile crowd. His knees ache, but his focus is still on the ball. He fights off a swarm of thoughts. His first year as a Yankee, his record of 60 home runs, both in the past now, of course. His two wives, his money problems, a million questions about when he's going to hang up his glove. He's looking for his next big hit to prove that he still belongs in the game. The pitcher's eyes are burning. The crowd is a frenzied roar. He raises his arm and points at the center field fence. On each of these Babe Ruth videos, I want to mention King Lear. King Lear on the heath being pelted by rain. He's in a storm. But the iconic moment, which King Lear is the main figure for in literature, is of a person being attacked by the experiences that he's had, by the memories that he's had, by the whole life that he's lived. In the present moment, yes, trying to focus, but being attacked by all of this information that he has to sort out in order to survive the present moment and move ahead. So Babe Ruth in that position, standing at the plate, being shouted at by the crowd, bombarded by his own memories, and at some level of his mind, trying to figure out, well, who am I? What am I? And where do I go from here? So all of that is taken care of by the 16 chapters of the novel. The novel is 16 chapters. It's set up in 3 cycles. I picked 1920, his first year as a Yankee, as one cycle. Is he going to be the phenomenon that he's predicted to be when he comes over from Boston? 1927, getting a little older, having a tough year. Lou Gehrig gets ahead of him in the home run race. Is he going to be able to hit 60 homers? And then the outer frame of the novel is this 1932 moment when he's in Chicago and he points his finger at center field. Some say, others say no, he just held up a finger and said, give me one good hit, that's all I need, and I'll put it out of the park. But anyway, that's the outer frame. I'm focusing, though, in this reading on the Babe and Shoeless Joe. An alternative title for this video might be the question, by what process does Babe Ruth make the characters of such actual people in his life as Ty Cobb, Lou Gehrig, and Shoeless Joe Jackson into characters? Although the novel deals with all 3 of these people in Babe Ruth's life and many more, this reading will focus on only one of these people in his life, and that person is Shoeless Joe. Sorry, just flipping my page here. So the premise of this reading then, we all lead very complex lives. We simplify our lives in our minds. We do this in order to understand our lives. We reduce the complexity of our lives to a level which is more understandable by creating myths of our own lives and then creating the characters who people that myth along with us. In doing so, we turn the people of our lives into characters in the drama of our lives. The question is, well, is this to our benefit or to our harm? Well, it can be both. If you think of Othello, there's a real Desdemona all through the play of Othello. But in Othello's mind, he creates a character Desdemona. Desdemona 1, you could say, character 1, Desdemona 1, the time of the elopement and the marriage. That's a certain character that he's created in his mind in the drama of his life. Desdemona 2, well, under the influence of Iago, a very different character Desdemona, and he acts on that. Character 3, Desdemona 3, is after he finds out what Iago's been up to. So 3 times during that play, Othello takes a real person, Desdemona, in all her complexity, and he makes a character of her. And he does it 3 different times, to his detriment, I guess we all have to say, right? And then maybe finds out about, well, he does find out about it at the end, that making characters out of people in your lives isn't always for the best. Same time, sometimes it is for the best. Like, how do you get through the complexity of your life on an everyday basis, on a yearly, monthly, decade basis, without simplifying the elements in your life, not just people, but other elements as well. So that's going to be what I'm going to isolate and read from in this particular reading, the making of another person into a character. So I'm focusing on one actual person who's being made into a character in the Babe Ruth personal myth, and it's Shoeless Joe Jackson. I could have picked other people because he does that with his 2 wives and so on. The one with Shoeless Joe is really interesting. Now, I as I recall, I picked 1920 because I just wanted to start a Babe Ruth's career, and I could have gone with a Boston and a game in Boston, but somehow it just seemed okay. First year as a Yankee, when he did have some problems, didn't seem to be the big phenomenon that had been played up, and then came through. And then when I looked for a particular game, and I'm not sure whether I picked the game and then it turned out that Shoeless Joe played in that game, or the other way around. Oh, here's a game with Shoeless Joe. But I was going to work Shoeless Joe into the novel anyway, because it's all in Babe Ruth's mind except for the standing at bat. So Shoeless Joe could have fit in the novel as imagery quite smoothly, and yet it was quite fascinating. Here was Shoeless Joe in a game against Babe Ruth. Now, if you're a baseball aficionado, you'd say, well, wait a minute. The Black Sox scandal of 1919, excuse me, put Shoeless Joe out of baseball. Well, yes, it did. But the game was in 1919 when the World Series was thrown. It was rumored that this was, underhanded, but it wasn't known until 1920 as the season went on. So the Black Sox continued to play in 1920. And here's Shoeless Joe playing against Babe Ruth before the scandal becomes public and he's out of baseball. So this cycle, of which I'm only reading sections from one chapter, goes through the whole novel. Babe Ruth making a mythical character out of Shoeless Joe and finding out as 1920 goes on what's gone on, behind the scenes of the Black Sox victory of the year before. So that's all kind of a sidelight, but it works its way into the novel. This is how novels evolve, right? You have an idea for a novel, but then the details and the structure and the patterns, the imagery, all kind of come to you as you plan and write. So let's go to the chapter I've selected. This is chapter 5. Shoeless Joe's in many of these. Well, he's in all the 1920 chapters anyway. Chapter 5, Spring 2, the Polo Grounds, New York. As I mentioned in an earlier video, no house that Ruth built yet, no Yankee Stadium because it's 1920. So he played his early games in the Polo Grounds. July 19th, 1920. Here's the setup for this chapter. Starting out fresh and new, getting off to a slow start. Had a lot of success in Boston, but New York is the biggest town in the whole wide world. Figuring out if I can play in the biggest town, in the toughest league, in the greatest game. Calling everything I got inside me to help me do it. Taking my first year as a Yankee, one hit at a time. And now moving on to page 66 in the novel, the Shoeless Joe section, leaving out many, many thoughts at many levels in the mind of Babe Ruth during this game. But here's the Shoeless Joe passages. Waiting my turn at batting practice and noticing Shoeless Joe out of the corner of my eye. Figuring I'll stroll over that way and talk to him, but he don't come over here. Then somebody else, the Yankee, says, what do you think about all them rumors about the Sox? I like to talk to him, just see how he's doing. There's a guy I've been thinking about a lot, ever since I first got interested in baseball. Brother Matthias told me that Joe was the one who had the smoothest swing. Another Yankee. There's Joe over there. Why don't you ask him if them rumors is true? Thinking about how I'm going to get another game to watch how Shoeless Joe faces the hitters, knowing Thormelin's going to give him some trouble. Thormelin's back to his old self out there on the mound. Wondering how Joe's going to do against our guy. Somebody else says, Don't be thinking about them rumors. We got to be thinking about how to play this game. Waiting for a chance to talk to Shoeless Joe. Well, interestingly enough, he made Joe into a mythical character when he was a boy in reform school, and Brother Matthias told him about Shoeless Joe. Here's the guy with the best swing in baseball. Now he's going to meet him as an actual person, but still a mythical being in his mind. The interaction is quite fascinating. Page 68. Meeting Shoeless Joe at batting practice, being excited when Shoeless Joe strolls over and says hello, turning towards him and saying hello right back. How's things going? I see you guys is winning your share of games. Being surprised that he seems so small. Being surprised that I'm towering over him. Realizing I must be one of the biggest players in the game. You guys have a tough time with Boston? They give us the biggest scare we ever had. Being pleased that I'm so big and got lots of strength. Admiring Shoeless Joe for getting so much power out of the frame of an average man. No breaks in the schedule from here on in. From here on in, she's going to be a tough go. Figuring maybe I'll offer Shoeless Joe one of my new bats. And then at a different time in the game, but shuffled like cards in his mind and his memory to try to get squeeze the meaning out of these episodes. Standing in the outfield, thinking about Shoeless Joe, thinking about what I'd seen in batting practice. Shoeless Joe is the smoothest hitter in the game. Shoeless Joe has got the eye. Shoeless Joe has got everything he needs, but a bit more weight. Them boneheads who keep writing that I'm going to eat myself right out of the league don't know nothing about how Joe and me hits the ball. We bring our power right up from our heels and through our body, right on out to the fat part of the bat. That's our secret. No newspaper writer writing a typewriter is going to figure it out. The only thing wrong with Shoeless Joe is that he don't have more weight. So, creating a character who has strengths and weaknesses, creating a character out of yourself, a mythical character out of yourself, I think we all do this. Here's an extreme example in a larger-than-life person, a larger-than-life myth, I guess. Babe Ruth, page 70. A little bit about Cobb here. There's a whole Cobb minor cycle, as I mentioned in the novel, but here's just a bit about Cobb. Cobb and Joe in the same thought. Who'd want to hit like Cobb? So Cobb hit 384 last year. That ain't nothing for him to brag about. His first year in the league, Shoeless Joe hit 408. The last person I want to think about is Cobb. Well, he does think about Cobb through the novel, not reading it today. And I was just thinking this morning as I was looking over this material, about 51% of Babe Ruth despises Cobb, and I think 49% admires Cobb. But two different people, two different views of baseball, and two different views of how to live one's life. But that's all in different segments of this novel. 71, Shoeless Joe. Watching Shoeless Joe up close as he takes his hits. Looking good. The way she went, you must have got her underneath. Telling Joe I modeled my swing on him. Most natural swing I ever seen. The most graceful kind of hitting I ever hoped to see. This breeze is made for hitters. If a guy can't hit one out today, you better give up. Just bringing the bat around square, like she was greased or oiled or something. Just moving in the perfect arc of a perfect swing. That one cleared the fence real nice. Nice to give the kids in the stands a souvenir. Watching Shoeless Joe taking his hits. So what do we get from other people, eh? Do we squeeze other people to get their essence and then somehow thrive on that essence? That seems to be the process. 73. Giving Shoeless Joe one of my new bats to try. Here, Joe, I want you to try one of them my new ones. I was looking to learn from the best hitter in the game. I knew I'd found what I was looking for when I seen him swing. My eyes lit up when I first saw Shoeless Joe. Had it made especially for me when making some experiments with the shape of the handle. Wanting everything all at once. Wanting the consistency of a Shoeless Joe. Wanting a batting average that keeps old Joe at the top. But also wanting a little more power behind the ball than Joe can generate. No, I ain't giving up no power just to have a good average. That's for sure. You need a handle you can squeeze as you meet the ball. Shoeless Joe has got the eye. Shoeless Joe has got the swing, right? No one can swing a bat like Shoeless Joe. But Shoeless Joe ain't got my size. Shoeless Joe ain't got my weight behind the ball. You gotta squeeze the handle to mush or she won't go very far. Wondering if Shoeless Joe is gonna give me a bat in return. Wanting to have a look at what he sees, what he uses to hit the ball. Wondering if he's trying to get the edge like I always do. The weight is just about right for the power you need. Wondering if Shoeless Joe ever thinks about how a bat can make a difference when you're up at the plate. Figured I'll ask him who's the company that makes his bats. Well, Babe Ruth. Some people think he was just a big lug, a big dumb brute, but he asked bat manufacturers to try different sizes of handles and weights and so on to get the perfect bat, to get the ideal bat. Well, I don't know whether Shoeless Joe did that or not. I didn't come across it in my research, but was Babe Ruth just a big empty-headed lug with brute strength, or was he a very thoughtful, intelligent man who approached hitting scientifically? Let's read on. Great to play against Shoeless Joe. Joe is the greatest natural hitter in the game. Joe and I take the art of hitting just about as far as she's able to go. The rest of them don't know what it is to hit the ball. Further down on page 75. Admiring Shoeless Joe, but deciding that no matter how well he hits today, Shoeless Joe ain't gonna have a better game than me. It ain't just who's gonna win the game today. It's something a lot more important than that. You can keep her, Joe, but just be sure you don't ever use her against the Yanks. Maybe Joe don't realize that we got a little contest going. I'm measuring myself against every hitter in the league, every hitter in baseball, matter of fact. I'll give her a good coat of tobacco juice. That's the best thing for breaking in a bat. Shoeless Joe is one of the best. Much as I admire the guy, I want to make the crowd forget about Shoeless Joe. I'll try her up in Boston. Don't worry, I'll never use her against you guys. Shoeless Joe is in the alley with the hungry cat. So that's the reading. Still a conclusion to come in a moment, but we make characters out of the people we know. The people we know are so complex that we can't possibly know them. But we can reduce them to their basic elements, the elements that appeal to us, the elements that don't appeal to us, and make characters out of them. And that's what he's doing. So he's talking to the real Shoeless Joe. And unbeknownst to Shoeless Joe, he's making a character out of him. A character to admire, but a character with deficiencies. He doesn't have the weight of a Babe Ruth. Maybe Shoeless Joe is doing the same thing while he's talking to Babe Ruth. How would we know? So a conclusion. In conclusion, I'd like to read a passage from one of my notes, more about my notes and how you can access them for free in a moment. It is my contention that all minds are complex, but that not all people are equally aware of the complexity of their thoughts. It has been fascinating to explore the imagery that the mind of the character Babe Ruth is processing at any given moment, and to speculate on the amount of awareness that his conscious mind has of the various levels of thought by which he is living his life and plying his trade. So that's, I think, what's interesting for the reader of this particular novel. Is to try to figure out, well, okay, all of these thoughts are in the mind of Babe Ruth. That's the premise of the novel. They wouldn't be printed on the page if they weren't in his mind, but they're in his mind at various levels. And are they doing him any good? Are they doing him any good consciously? Are they doing him good subconsciously? Are they doing him harm consciously or subconsciously? That's the challenge, I think, for the reader to consider. The book is on Amazon. It's available. It's called Out of the Park, The Cogitations of Babe Ruth, a novel by John Passfield. It's also on my website, johnpassfield.ca, johnpassfield.ca. 2 free books, book-length books. One is a planning notebook, which takes me and takes you, if you read it, all through the process of getting the idea for the novel, doing the research for the novel, structuring the novel, and writing the novel. and that's as I say, a free book length book. If you go to johnpassfieldbook.ca, the same website, journals at the top, and click on the Babe Ruth website, you'll get my journal. And that's my reflections on all kinds of topics, all connected with Babe Ruth, but to do with characters and myths and novel writing as well. And just sort of how we live our lives mentally, um, as expressed in the structure and the style of a particular novel. So that, a book length book for free as well. Lastly, let me say thank you for watching this video.